Meeting of security chiefs reviews strategy to address challenges.
The message that is coming out of that meeting is that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies will continue to work much harder.
Chairman, Northern Governors Forum clarifies federal government's suspension of Ruga Settlement Initiative.
House of Representatives announces majority leaders.
And on Good Morning Nigeria today, we shall assess the ongoing African Cup of Nations, plus role of government in curbing youth restiveness.
Yes, Kinsley, the round of 16 in the African Cup of Nations ongoing in Egypt begins today.
Definitely, Kirian. It's, of course, the 32nd edition of the tournament, and right now we are at the knockout stages, out of the round robin.
All right, you're very right, Kinsley. 24 teams made it to Egypt, but after 12 days of action, 8 crashed out of the competition, leaving 16 others to continue with the dream of becoming African champions.
Certainly, Kirian. How did the teams that made it to the round of 16 emerge? The 2 top teams from each of the groups automatically qualified for the knockout stages, that is to say the round of 16, with the other 4 being the 3rd best teams across the groups.
Of course, indeed. And after the 12 days, the Super Eagles of Nigeria won 2 of their matches against Burundi and Guinea, while they lost to Madagascar.
Today in Cairo, that's the capital of Egypt, Morocco, who finished top of Group D, will take on the Republic of Benin. And later on today, of course, Group A runners-up, that's Uganda, will face Senegal.
All right, then. The Super Eagles on Saturday will rekindle their rivalry with the indomitable Lions of Cameroon in the round of 16 fixture at the Alexandria Stadium. And the host Egypt will, of course, on the same day, lock horns with South Africa. But if you recall, Nigeria has met Cameroon in 3 finals of the African Cup of Nations, and Cameroon beat Nigeria each of the time. Now they are meeting at the round of 16 stage.
Yes, it's pretty early stage for the 2 rivals to meet. I agree with you. But I don't want to recall what happened in the year 2000 when we faced Cameroon in the finals of the Cup of Nations at the National Stadium in Lagos. It ended 2-2. You know, Cameroon was let's use the plural. Cameroon were 2 goals up, and then, of course, J.J. Okocha, who was then the captain of the Super Eagles, scored a magnificent goal, and we had an equalizer. So it ended 2-2, even after extra time. So we went into penalties. Yeah. So, but the officiating on that occasion was questionable, because there was a penalty that was struck by Victor Ikpeba. You know, it hit the crossbar and then bounced, and of course going beyond the goal line. At that time there was no VAR, and the referee ruled it not a goal. And according to him at the time, if you recall, also, the referee was saying that, it was the reaction of Ikpeba that he followed, that if Ikpeba had jubilated on striking that goal, then he would have taken it as a goal.
How could I be known that?
That's right, that's right. But 1984, we also lost to Cameroon. It was unfortunate on that occasion as well. The Super Eagles, Eagles at the time as they were, played very well, and the late Patrick Okala was Nigeria's goalkeeper. It was a valiant effort. I think Udemezwe was our coach in 1984. Yes, but the rivalry between the 2 sides has been ongoing, and of course tomorrow now there'll be a showdown in the round of 16. Okay, but before that, of course, we'll also be getting to hear about Madagascar. Madagascar, who were surprise winners over Nigeria at the round-robin stage, will take on one of the best losers. That's to say the DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo. That will take place on Sunday, and Algeria and Guinea will battle on later on Sunday evening.
Now, the last round of 16 fixtures are scheduled for Monday. Mali and Cote d'Ivoire will battle it out, while the tie between Ghana and Guinea ends the match in the round of 16.
All right, so now we are at the knockout stages. We're having to ask pertinent questions, and we're going to get our team of analysts to review the Cup of Nations so far taking place in Abuja. There are a number of things to talk about: the quality of play, the quality of officiating, attendance at the various stadia, plus other issues that the technical persons will have an eye to point out in the course of our conversation segment.
And also on the program today, we shall be discussing the role of government in curbing youth restiveness, as the National Defense College will be organizing a roundtable to discuss what government is doing in this regard. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria, the last edition for the week. My name is Kirian. It's good to have you join us, as always.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to welcome you to this edition of the program, always broadcast on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA. We're Africa's largest TV network, and we're right here at the Abuja headquarters studios. Of course, we also have streaming of the program on YouTube, NTA News. In the course of today's program, as usual, we'll have our complimentary segments. These are newspaper review, business, and others. In the meantime, let's take the highlights of the morning news, and here is Chimobi Watananji. Hello, Chimobi.
Hello, Kingsley and Kirian. It's good to have you this morning. Good morning, Nigeria, and here is the morning news. The narrative concerning the nation's security issues is fast changing, with a number of successes lately being recorded across the country. With this, security chiefs are calling on Nigerians to maintain the tempo by giving useful information promptly to agencies involved in the maintaining of law and order. This was at a meeting of nation's security chiefs presided over by President Muhammadu Buhari, Chief of Air Staff Air Marshal Sadiq Abubakar. The current strategy being adopted is effective and would continue to be operated.
And the message that is coming out of that meeting is that the armed forces of Nigeria and other security agencies will continue to work much harder to ensure that every Nigerian is secured and the territorial integrity of Nigeria is not undermined by anybody.
And then on the judiciary, the Federal High Court sitting in Abuja has dismissed the suit filed by the Miyetti Allah Sociocultural Organization challenging the validity of the Ranching and Open Grazing Prohibition Law 2017 promulgated by the Benue State government. The presiding judge, Justice Okun Abang, gave the verdict.
Anybody that wants to rear cattle in Benue State will follow the good law pass to ensure that ranching, the best practices all over the world, is maintained in the state.
We're going to make sure we follow up through the courts to recover the money which they awarded in our favor.
And on other stories now, the Northern Governors Forum has made clarifications in federal government suspension of Ruga. In a statement signed by Chairman, Northern Governors Forum Governor Simon Long of Plateau State, the forum described the varied reactions of Ruga Settlement Initiative as part of the beauty of democratic process. The forum urges all interest groups, especially from the northern part of the country, to remain calm and channel their views democratically, while federal government handles the matter in the best interest of all Nigerians. The statement notes that the Northern Governors Forum is engaging all interested parties after receiving the position of the leadership of the coalition of Northern groups with a view to enlighten the public on the concept wisdom behind federal government's decision. Northern Governors Forum is reassured that the leadership of the coalition is concerned with the betterment of the nation and the well-being of the northern region. The forum calls for calm while the federal government works on a comprehensive package with multi-sectoral and multidimensional benefits that would serve the interests of all in the short and long term. About 5,000 pieces of evidence have been tendered before the Presidential Election Tribunal as the court commenced the main trial of the People's Democratic Party's petition against the election of President Muhammadu Buhari. Now, the Senate has called for increased budgetary allocation to primary health care system in Nigeria and the introduction of modern technologies in the treatment of patients.
Direct the Ministry of Employment to put in place policies to ensure that every employer of labor has health insurance package for employees.
The National Financial Intelligence Unit has made an observation that local government funds have been hijacked by the state governors.
Unless we continue to create an avenue for it to be continually maintained, of course the whole thing will collapse again.
It should not be made to just be affordable, and it should also be made free.
This is something that we need to oversight very well. We must ensure that everything is streamlined.
And still with the National Assembly, Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbadagbiamila has announced names of new House Majority Leaders for the 9th Assembly as contained in a communication from APC House Caucus.
Representatives, APC Caucus hereby endorse the following honorable members as principal officers. Honorable Al-Hassan Ado Dogwa, House Leader. Mohammed Tahir Mongunu, Chief Whip. Honorable Inkuruka Onyejocha, the Deputy Chief Whip. And Honorable Peter Apata Singh, Deputy Leader.
And to other matters now, the media coverage given to the 2019 general election was a clear demonstration of patriotism. Chairman of the Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, Professor Mahmoud Yakub, stated this in a stakeholders meeting with the media in reviewing the conduct of the 2019 general elections in Abuja.
The media did not disappoint before, during, and after the election. We were never at any point in time found wanting.
The live coverage on television, radio, online newspapers, and live streaming on other platforms, free of charge, gratis. The Commission didn't pay for this.
And that's the news for now. Good Morning Nigeria continues with Kieran and Kingsley after this break. Just stay with us.
Right, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria, reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now, just before we take business, which my colleague Kieran will be introducing. Kieran, I just wanted to reference our banter while introducing the topics for today. We're talking about the clashes between the Super Eagles and the Indomitable Lions of Cameroon. And I was recalling, excuse me, what happened in the 2000 African Cup of Nations final in Lagos. And I did say that J.J. Okocha scored a marvelous goal against Cameroon. But at that time, he wasn't the captain of the Super Eagles. The captain of Super Eagles at the time was Sunday Olise, who after the match, of course, was so inconsolable that the then Vice President, Atiku Abubakar, who was a special guest of honor, who, of course, handed the trophy to Cameroon, had to do all he could to pacify him.
Exactly. All right, now let's turn to business. Key players in the construction sector are advocating for the replication of gains made in cement manufacturing and other building materials so as to boost efficiency in the sector. Chimobi Watanaji is standing by with business news.
Cost of materials for construction has been in the front burner as a major challenge to the quest by government to bridge the infrastructure gap in country. The President, Federation of Construction Industries in Nigeria, Nasir Dantata, believes the continuous importation of some construction materials into the country undermines the capacity of the construction companies to thrive.
Today in Nigeria, the bitumen we are buying to lay on our roads, it's more or less 100% imported. We used to go to Kaduna and get our bitumen for roads, but today we are not able to. I think the main gain that has been made in the last 20 years is in the area of cement.
Meanwhile, the perceived disappearance of smaller denominations in the Nigerian currency has been described as detrimental to the country's inflationary policies. An economic enthusiast, Tina Onojego, believes Nigeria can sustain the smaller denominations through implementing policies that can ensure its relevance in the market.
It's making people to cry every day in the country. You know, normally we have salt, 1 kobo, pepper, 10 kobo, but there is nothing of such. The 10 naira is going gradually. The 20 naira will take over. 50 naira will take over. 200 naira will take over. Are we going to be producing high currency till we get to 5 million naira currency? No. We need to retain the one we have to maintain the economy of the country.
Next is a graphic representation of trading figures on the floor of the capital market. With business news, I'm Chimobi Walter Naji.
All right, thank you very much, Chimobi, for that business package. Up next for us now, we'll take a look at the front pages of some of the papers we have this morning. And we have our newspaper reviewer, Bayo Atebe, here in the studio this morning. Bayo, good morning.
Thank you, Kirian. Good morning, Kirian. Good morning, Kingsley. Good morning, Nigeria.
Bayo, good to see you.
Yes,
Right,
we have three newspapers this
three
morning.
newspapers rained heavily last night.
Two of the papers actually have one lead headline. This is how the Sun newspaper captures it. It said, "Fire fury with 2 riders. Pipeline explosion kills 2. Houses burnt. Vehicles destroyed in Lagos. 3 killed, 11 injured as bus plunges into Ogun River." Now, all right, that's the major headline of the Daily Sun. Now, let's look at the Punch actually has that same story as part of the lead headline this morning. The Punch newspaper, just below the photo story there, which is actually showing the inferno that occurred after the explosion. It says, Lagos pipeline fire kills 2, scores injured, 68 vehicles, shops burnt.
Okay, that story is also on the front page of the Nigerian Tribune, above the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune. You have it with a headline that says, 2 die, vehicles and houses destroyed as pipeline explodes in Ijegun. That's the story there for the Nigerian Tribune. It also has a rider that's unrelated, but speaking to a disaster. It says, bus plunges into Ogun River. 3 die, 11 injured. So that's the headline there. And below the nameplate of the Nigerian Tribune, we'll take 2 of those headlines. Assault. Police detain Senator Abu. That's on page 7. And on page 6, in greater detail, 87-year-old Nwabueze, that's Professor Nwabueze, leads Atiku's and PDP's legal team as hearing begins. Tribunal admits 5,638 exhibits from Niger and Yobe. As I said, that story is in greater detail on page 6. Lead story for the paper says, Reps crisis worsens. And 3 riders, Bajabia Miller to Chinda, don't test the resolve of this house. PDP BOT withdraws support for Elumelu and backs Chinda. Dogowa, Oyejocha, and others emerge principal officers. That's page 2. And court dismisses Bietiala's suit seeking to restrain open grazing law. That's on page 8.
All right,
you want to take all that?
Well, before we bring in Bio, let me take some other stories on the Punch newspaper this morning. Above the nameplate of the Punch newspaper, we have some trending stories there. Stock market loses 291 billion in 4 days. That's it's on page 35. Just below that, drama as Wadabiamila stops Chinda, others from raising leadership issues as plenary, as APC appoints House principal officers. It's on page 2. And now down to the food, or before that, let's take the lead story. Presidential Poll Tribunal, Atiku tenders Niger Yobe results, says INEC has 2 different outcomes in local government. It's on page 2. Well, Crystal has read this one as police quiz detain Abu for assaulting nursing mother.
Yes, the issue of the fire must be a matter of concern for all. The fire had actually started from a vandalized NNPC pipeline, and it killed 2 persons. This happened at Ijegun area. However, eyewitnesses have separate accounts about how it happened. One says that a motorist started his engine not knowing that petrol has spilled into the gutters in the area, and incidentally that led to ignition of the fire. Another says that there were vandals who actually had punctured the NNPC pipeline and were siphoning petrol, but they set the place ablaze upon sighting security men who were closing down on them. So far, about 20 persons who were severely were rescued, and 13 of them have been taken to Bagada Hospital, 7 others to Lagos State University Teaching Hospital. But the concern about criminals vandalizing pipe is becoming a recurring decimal, particularly in the Lagos axis area. And just last week, we were lamenting about tankers upturning and spilling petrol, and people going to scoop it, and that becoming a source of inferno. In fact, incidentally, the Senate has set up a committee to look into the recurring incidents of tanker fires. And I think they should broaden that up and include this pipeline vandalization that is causing mayhem, because it's very occurring, particularly in the Lagos axis.
Yeah, but on that subject of rupturing pipelines by vandals, you know, Arepo, that's the border between Lagos and Ogun, on the Lagos-Ibadan Expressway, used to be the favorite spot for the pipeline vandals until, you know, security agencies moved in, and at some point, Air Force Alpha jets, you know, were used to strafe those locations where the vandals were. But for Ijegun, now you have a crisscross of pipelines in that location, you know, going towards a depot. And about 10 or 11 years ago, Fashola then was governor of Lagos. There was a construction work going on, and the operator of the earth-moving machine, who was probably careless or reckless enough, you know, struck a pipeline, and of course the pipeline ignited. So he was the first to go, along with several other persons. So you had a number of fatalities, and this is on account of the poor planning in that location. You have all kinds of structures, some of them lying directly down the pipeline or too close to the pipeline. So the pipelines in that area have virtually no right of way.
Yes.
And it's not just in Lagos. If you go to the Niger Delta area, Wugoni area, you know, you will see pipelines. If you're passing the road, you see some pipelines, some just very close to residential areas, you know, and they're not covered at all. You know? So it's all over the country where pipelines are laid.
International best practice is to indicate where the pipelines are, and that is the freeway that there should be no construction. In fact, by law, there should be a distance away from those pipelines, and that has to be enforced. If not, we will continue to suffer this kind of tragedy. Now let's return to the House of Representatives. The House of Rep has announced its principal officers for the minority party as well as the majority party. The announcement of the minority party, however, if you recall, on Wednesday led to the scramble for the maize, which ended the plenary abruptly. But yesterday when they sat, Representative Kingsley Chinda occupied the seat meant for Ndudi Elumelu, who was announced as the minority leader. All points of order raised by Chinda was ignored. However, following a motion of disciplinary action for those that attempted to snatch the maize, the House of Rep appointed a committee of ethics and privileges to determine whether or not there is a need for to pursue disciplinary measures. But the Speaker warned that no one should take the resolve of the House for granted. Meanwhile, How did the crisis come up? The People's Democratic Party national chairman was said to have written to the speaker nominating Kingsley Chida and other members of House of Representatives as the majority principal officers for the House.
Minority.
But the speaker read
Minority.
a letter. Minority, yes. But the speaker read a letter said to have been signed by 99 lawmakers from the minority parties. He reeled out the Order 7 Rule 8, and which says that members of the minority parties shall among themselves elect the minority leader, deputy minority leader, minority whip, and deputy minority whip. There are, according to the roll call, there are seven minority parties, 9 minority parties in the House of Representatives. So all the 9 minority parties undersigned 99 signatures and suggested who should be their leader. Kingsley Chida also at the briefing alleged that the APC has ambushed the minority party by illegally imposing certain persons as leaders of the House. So again, we are back to the argument of whether it is the House members, the legislators, that should elect their members, or suggestions should come from outside. We had the same thing when we were talking about the principal officer, the Speaker and the Senate President earlier on, but somehow sanity prevailed and that has been resolved. We hope that this will not constitute any problem for the House settling down to its business.
Well, we just hope so. We hope so because what happened in the Senate?
It's become a recurring decimal when it comes to positions, at the National Assembly. It becomes another round of a kind of election all over again.
That's right.
And many Nigerians are disappointed in that because some of the members of the National Assembly have been there over time. They've been there time and time again.
So they should know what the practice is. What they should know, and it is not just sufficient to say that. I believe so. It is sufficient to say that, you have X number of parties that are in the minority, say 9 of them. What are their numbers?
Exactly.
If 8 of them are just 1, then what will be the number of that is the major minority party?
Exactly.
Or if you like, the main minority party.
So, okay, let's go to
Daily
Sun. There are some stories at the foot of Daily Sun this morning. Just let's see them very quickly. Although also read in the other paper by Kingsley. More trouble for Senator Abu. Photojournalist accuses lawmaker of assault over debt. That's a rider to that. It's on page 39. A prof at center of Nigeria-Ghana face-off opens up. It's on page 33. I went into hiding as my wife was in danger. Ruga, northern governors meet groups over 30-day implementation ultimatum. With a rider, why Nigerians must resist government, PFN. The story is on page 6. Let's bring back Bayo now.
Yes, the issue of the running story that's been going on the week. First, the Adama senator who assaulted a nursing mother at a sex toy shop has submitted himself to the police for interrogation. A photographer has also come and alleged that the same senator had assaulted him after he engaged him to work for him in faraway Adamawa State, and he refused to pay him. So the police has also launched an investigation into the rape allegation against the cleric. At the last point of call, the accuser is now reported to have formally filed a complaint at the police station. Talking about the senator from Adamawa, the sad thing is that he is now described as a beneficiary of the not too young to run. And having joined the power brokers, the young people are now complaining that he's behaving as if he's above the public.
And they say the youngest of them all
yes.
in the Senate.
So probably he should teach himself that he's not too young to restrain himself, especially his temper.
That's right.
Taraba State has a law now.
It needs some lessons in anger management.
Anger management. If a man can exhibit that kind of temper at a nursing mother, I can imagine what can happen. What can happen with him and his spouse at home.
Well, I think one other point, Bayo, I'm sorry we're dragging this. One other point is that he should consider himself also lucky.
Yes.
Because assuming the husband of the lady came into the shop at the material time that he was assaulting the wife, the husband could have all the defense in the world, spousal defense, provocation, just not a spousal defense, not only for provocation, spousal defense, to pound him to pulp.
Exactly.
Anyway, Taraba State now has a law of death sentence penalty for anybody found guilty of kidnapping. Governor Darius Ishaku signed the law, the bill into law, and he says that it will help check the case of kidnapping that has become rampant in Taraba State. Case of kidnapping is said to be so rampant that senior civil servants and government appointees have abandoned their homes. They don't live there because kidnappers follow them to their home to pick them up. And the senior special assistant to the Governor Darius Ishaku on media and publicity, Baladan Abu, says that the law is to check kidnapping for money, which has become very rampant in this state.
All right, Bayo, we're taking editorial from the Daily Sun
Yes.
now, but just before we do, there's a story on page 7 of the Nigerian Tribune. This is a running story. It said 9 Nigerians died in Libya migrant detention center airstrike. That 9 Nigerians are reported to have been confirmed dead amongst the 44 who were killed on the early Wednesday's airstrike on the migrant detention center. This is attributed to a statement, according to the media aide to the CEO of the Nigerians in Diaspora Commission. So that's that story. Now, let's take the editorial at page 15 from the Daily Sun newspaper, providing free basic education.
Okay. Yeah, before I go there, can I quickly draw attention to the Super Eagles? They have assured Nigerians of victory on Saturday's match over Cameroon.
Let them enter the pitch tomorrow.
Exactly. So this is of assurance should not come in.
Well, everybody is worried, but they said the lessons have been learned, and they have intensified their training. Technical crew has also worked hard on them, and they have perfected their attacking specialties. As at yesterday, they also went into penalty training. You will recall that 3 of the instances that Nigeria have lost to Cameroon, 2 of them were actually on penalty. The other one was action speaking louder than words when Victor Ikpeba kicked the ball and held his head, and the referee surmised that apparently it was not a goal. But Nigerians are saying to the Super Eagles, talk now, do tomorrow. They must do as they have
90 minutes or 120 minutes.
Yes. It's knockout stage. It's either you knock the opponent out or you are knocked out. Yes. Now on the basic education, the president has addressed the National Economic Council to commence process for implementation of free education. This is in consonance with the Section 18.3 of the Constitution, as well as the Free Basic Education Act, which is now a law. Specifically, governors have been advised to entrench free education, particularly by providing for schools, teachers, and teaching materials. And it also have been enjoyed that local government and their chairmen should also be mobilized to ensure that free education is enforced. While the editorial is commending the initiative of government, it has observed that there is a lot more that needs to be done, particularly that the UNESCO recommendation is that 20% of budget ought to be dedicated to education, and Nigeria's percentage budget for education is far, 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 far less than that. And they also surmise that by the year 2050, it is projected that Nigeria's population will be 400 million, and by that time, the 40% of that population will be children of school age, that is 160 million. And so we should better now start laying our bed properly before we lie, in the sense that we should prepare to amend the revenue allocation formula to ensure that there will be enough resources to prepare for the future. If not, by 2050, we will have about 160 million children of school age that has to be catered for. Presently, 13 million out-of-school children is the challenge that we have to face. The government must ensure that every Nigerian child of school age is not out of school.
Bayo, well, thank you for being with us today and indeed all through the week. We hope you will enjoy your weekend. And
Thank
in particular, you will enjoy watching the Super Eagles tomorrow.
I'll be
So see you on Monday.
All ears tomorrow.
Okay. All right, Bayo, I'll see you on Monday. It's Good Morning Nigeria, still on the network service of the NTA. We're taking a short break now. When we return, don't forget we have 2 topics for discussion, one of which is, of course, a review of the African Cup of Nations so far.
Old Government House, Rayfield, Jos, Plateau State. Date 8th July to 2nd August 2019. Cost fee 100,000 naira only per participant. Accommodation inclusive. For more information, please call 0803-314-4383 or 0806-980-9807. NTA Television College, Jos. Training you to be the best you want to be.
All right. right, welcome back, and still Good Morning Nigeria, live on the network service of the NTA. Earlier, we did say that we're discussing the role of government in handling youth restiveness. We have with us on the studios 3 guests who will be taking on this topic. First, let's welcome Professor Yusuf Zoaka, who is the Dean of Social Sciences at the University of Abuja. Professor Zoaka, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
Okay. Also here with us in the studios is the head of the Department of Political Science and International Relations at the University of Abuja, Professor James Nda Jacob. Professor Jacob, pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you for having me. Good morning.
And
Group Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired Senior Research Fellow at the National Defense College and International Peace Security, of course, and development expert. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning and good morning, viewers.
Yes, gentlemen, youth restiveness grew within the past 10 or more years in Nigeria, and that called for a big question. It has become a challenge over the years. But let's begin by asking you to take a look at the main causes of youth restiveness in Nigeria, and I'd like Professor James Nda Jacob to start.
Well, youth restfulness is not just in Nigeria, it's a global phenomenon. The world is battling with it, but basically we are talking about Nigeria, and it is caused by multi-dimensional causes, and we need several phases to be able to deal with this problem. And if you want to talk about the causes, I think one of the fundamental issues that we can look at where this has become a serious problem is the issue of lack of education among the youths. One of the things that the government must do is to push for formal education. And formal education shows, you know, the way that this issue can be dealt with. Character is built, values are inculcated through formal education. And if you get a stark illiterate, you can manipulate him. And then it can result to violence and all the social vices that the country is battling with. The trouble we have all over the country is perpetuated by the youth. And, you know, the youth population is huge. The 2006 census tells us that the youth population is about 45.4 million people, youths, you know, million people. And that is a huge number. And between 2006 and now, you know, the Nigerian population have grown. And that is why we have this all over the country. And the government need to wake up and do something about it.
All right, thank you very much, Professor James Jacob. Let's bring in now the Dean of the Social Sciences at University of Abuja, Professor Yusuf Zoaka. Other than the causes, you know, which you can frame into your response, have we done a proper evaluation of the responses, institutional, governmental, corporate, or otherwise, to the question of youth restiveness in Nigeria? In other words, how strategic have we been in responding to youth restiveness?
Well, I think among the other factors that we could also discuss that has, you know, contributed to youth restiveness is, of course, the issue of unemployment, the issue of poverty, the issue of, you know, the fact that the youth themselves are not, making use of maybe the ICT resources in a very positive manner. So when you look at the impact of globalization, you know, on the youth, we tend to, you know, go for the, you know, aspects of globalization that are not really very positive, maybe the negative ones. But in terms of the response of the government, I think the government has always been reactive rather than proactive. For instance, if you take the issue of the Niger Delta, you know, agitations, until they started militancy, you know, blowing up pipelines, and then government now started seeing that revenue from that area is dwindling, that they now came up with, some programs like the NDDC, to take care of, some of these agitations. And if you look at the strategies maybe that the government has deployed, when we take the National Youth Policy, of course, you have about 18 items in the National Youth Policy addressing different aspects, of youth, maybe education, health, ICT, security, and several things like that are supposed to be addressed, by the National Youth Policy. But the issue now is that, is there a properly outlined coordination of all these activities that are supposed to be carried out by different agencies of government? For instance, if you take NAPTIP, for instance. We have immigration. Youths are immigrating, and some of them are getting stranded in Libya, and their organs harvested, for sale, in Europe. But NAPTIP have already taken it upon itself by going out, and taking census of these youths and also repatriating them back to, Nigeria. I think if we can have, organizations working positively towards ensuring that they do their job, because when we talk about youths, I think most times it's the sports and recreational aspect that the Ministry of Youth itself is maybe focused on. But it goes beyond that. And when we look at it, also the kind of personalities that are appointed into such positions, you need somebody who is maybe a social scientist, that will understand some of these issues, or somebody who has an interdisciplinary approach, to these matters, because they are very diverse, areas, including health. We talk about HIV/AIDS and all sorts of things that, government is supposed to be focused on in trying to address these issues. But I think government is not really very strategic, in solving the matters, and that's why, we can see that there's an upsurge, in the restiveness. All over the country now, you have issue of kidnapping, issue of, insurgency. All these things are happening because there's no proper coordination. And you see, we need to also look at governance. If you don't devolve governance to that level where the people are living, and every small problem you're focusing, you look at Abuja, every small, but, within the communities, you can have some community, government, local government, which is already moribund, and they're trying to revive it. Then the state governors, they're in their own heaven. So when you look at all these dysfunctional, governments, because they're not functioning towards resolving these problems. Therefore, we're not able to, get, our youth to do the right thing. I think unless we begin to do that, we're not likely going to get over that problem.
Well, getting the youth to do the right thing. Well, government actually has some agencies, that could be held responsible for not bringing up some measures, that could educate the youth towards taking right decisions at the right time. But in all, as a developing nation such as Nigeria, there's the growing level of youth restiveness, which also translates into several criminal activities like kidnapping and what have you. And this also affects the social stability of a country. I'd like to ask Captain Sadiq to give us, is there any correlation between youth restiveness and social instability?
Thank you very much. At the Center for Strategic Research and Studies at the National Defense College, we really studied this phenomenon of youth restiveness, social instability, and its link with governance. And that is why in next Monday, the center, which serves as a think tank for both the Nigerian government and the NDC itself, in collaboration with the Central Bank of Nigeria, in a collaborative arrangement between the commandant of the ADC, Rear Admiral M.M. Kadri, and the Central Bank of Nigeria, is organizing a one-day workshop on this issue. This is because the future of any country is the youths. And definitely, just like Professor Zwaka said, there is a link between these issues, social instability, and also governance. This roundtable that we're organizing, we want to bring all stakeholders because we have heard of multi-stakeholder involvement in this issue. So many agencies are involved in addressing the issue of youth restiveness. So that is why the center is organizing this workshop where all the relevant MDAs will come. And
ahead of the workshop,
yes,
what were your preliminary findings and what were your preliminary evaluation results of approaches previously adopted in dealing with youth restiveness?
Thank you very much. Beginning May to April this year, with support from the CBN, the center sent a team of researchers to the field, to various states of the Federation, to look at this issue of youth restiveness. And it is the result when we found the causes, you know, the challenges, the policies that will help government. It is as a result of that that we are convoking this roundtable with a view, as part of our mandate, to provide, you know, possible and actionable policy options to the government. And in this research, some of the issues we discovered, as has been said by the other, just issues like poverty, unemployment, lack of education, even though I would like to say not even lack of education, even the quality of the education. Because when you say lack of education, definitely illiteracy will lead to somebody not getting a work. But the issue also is also that of education. What kind of education? Our education so far is based on the kind of traditional formal education. But the world has moved beyond there. You have to look at non-traditional type of education. In all honesty, I don't think I'm of the word. You meet somebody who has finished secondary school, for example, and he tells you, I'm looking for admission into the university. What do you want to study? He wants you to help him. He said, any course we have, I will manage it. Now, this shows me a flaw in our educational system. It didn't used to be like that. At SS2 ending into JSS, the final year of JSS into SS1, a student should be able to know where are my strengths, where are my weaknesses. We used to have things like, what they call it, guidance and counseling, that will channel, a trained teacher will look at what are the strengths, what are the weaknesses. Now, when a student enters into the university, he has not even understood where his strengths and weaknesses are. You are preparing a youth that is going to be useless to himself and useless to the society. He also talked about moral inculcation. It was Theodore Roosevelt who said, if you educate the mind and you don't give education to morals, then you are educating an individual who's going to be a menace to the society. So we have to bring issues like morals, issues like ethics, issues like civic responsibilities, which right now our youths, they lack. So at the center, we are hoping by convoking this roundtable, which is just one day, we will get the inputs from academia, youth organizations, all the relevant MDAs, so that this will feed into policy options we are going to be presenting to the government.
All right, Group Captain Sadiq Shehu, thank you very much. But some persons would ask whether you aren't making some sweeping generalization about the Nigerian youth and the quality of education that they receive, and some of them, as you claimed, that they have no sense of what their future career path would be. There are some Nigerian youths, not many of them, who have a clear focus. And some of them are saying, look, all we just need is support, just a push.
Exactly the point. There are those that, by composition, that's all human beings. There are some that are structured to withstand all these challenges and still be there. And then there are those among those few ones who are from privileged background. If you are from privileged background, a well-off parent, a well-educated parent, there is tendency you will not fall along these lines. But again, we are talking of something that affects the majority, not the minority. We are looking for a society where there can be social mobility, just like late Malam Aminu Kano said. We are looking for a society where the son of nobody will become somebody without knowing anybody. If you took up the few ones, you are talking of people that go to highly expensive private schools mostly, those from privileged background. But the ones that has to go and farm, has to go and sell water before he finishes secondary school, and then enter university, miss one lecture because there is no money, for those ones, in all honesty, they need support. And these are the majority of the youths. If not these people, this large chunk of youths are going to be excluded from society. And as we see, why the center at National Defense College is interested, there is a link between this and security. If we exclude these people at a certain time, they will rebel against the society because there's going to be a fight between those excluded and the excluders.
All right, okay. Thanks. Kieran, I was just wondering, I want to bring in again Professor Jacob. Earlier he was talking about, in responding to your question, was talking about the causative factors of youth restiveness. It's easy for one to take a panoramic view of some of our social challenges. But when we interrogate our approaches to dealing with those challenges, what do we find? Which also leads me to the question I asked Professor Zoaka earlier, how strategic have we been at various levels of government, various tiers or arms of government in responding to what some have described already as a youth crisis, in Nigeria?
Well, I think, again, we should look at our country and ask, do we have values? Values are very, very important in dealing with this issue. As a nation, do we have values? I think we have a problem with that. There are certain values that are so key to saying that this issue is dealt with. One, the value of commitment, the value of hard work, the value of honesty. And when the youths wake up and see that the elders don't resonate those values, naturally they follow what they can see. People get the opportunity, for example, to lead. Instead of serving the people, what they do is self-interest, first of all. And everybody's looking for an opportunity of how to make money. And they see that the elders are not setting the right example. And naturally, what the youth does is that they follow. Another issue, I think, talking about education again, the kind of education that the government should be encouraging is technical education. One of the reasons why we have the restiveness is unemployment, but the kind of education that we have does not promote entrepreneurship. And we need to spend more on technical education, vocational education, where people can acquire skills that they can use in bettering their life, talking about the youths. Once this is not there, there's going to be a problem. Another issue I think that is key is parental upbringing. The parents must be there for their children and inculcate the right values in them. Because when the parents are not there and they're pursuing money and money and money, because that is the in thing for everybody now, you will find out that the society is going to be going through the kind of crisis that we're going through now, where the youths, are being used, for all kinds of problems that we have. And it's not just in one part of the country. The whole geopolitical zones in the country, the six, you have youths that have become militias, ethnic militias, that have been used to create violence, to murder, to deal with the issue of fundamental rights of people that have been deprived. When youths are pushed to the wall, at the end of the day, instead of contributing to the society, what they do is to create pain and problem. So I think it's a multidimensional approach that should be used to deal with this problem that we're facing as a nation. Like I said initially, it's not just Nigeria, but it's not just a Nigerian problem. It's a world or global problem. But developing societies, which Nigeria symbolize, have serious problem with this issue.
All right, thank you indeed. We may begin to categorize, the youths in this country. There are ones from very poor homes, and there are the educated ones. There are stark illiterates. There are literate ones who are also involved in restiveness. But those from a poor background are more vulnerable to overtaking to some criminal activities or the other. Now, the question I want to ask is this. Now, putting all of these categories together, we have one result, which is restiveness, irrespective of their background. So the question would be, what are those concerted efforts required to approach the menace of restiveness in the country? Because as we speak, these young fellows we're talking about have different thought patterns and different behavioral patterns. They already made up their minds on what they want to do, because as you rightly pointed out, the main thing is how do I sustain a living, right? Whether it is the right or wrong way, I have to live as a Nigerian. So I'd like to ask Professor Zoaka to take a look at steps that government should take at this point in time to see how we can reverse the trend.
You see, since you have categorized them to different segments, those ones that don't have education need to be given education. And that means you have to invest, in human capital development. If you take, for instance, what the Chinese did, sending about 3 million, of their own people out of China to different universities in Europe and America, and then that's why we're seeing the result now, that today they are advancing. Economically they are becoming very strong. So you have to invest in human capital, spend more on education. And I think that's what, every now and then when you hear ASU is on strike, what are they talking about? Funding of the universities. Okay, so if you don't fund your educational institutions and ensure that the funds are utilized for the purpose for which they are meant, because again, there's no monitoring, there's no any form of evaluation that is going on the funding of these institutions. You have UBE, you have the universities, you have college of education, you have polytechnics. Funds are being pumped into these institutions. What is being done with the funds that they get in these institutions? So if you don't monitor to see what they are doing, then that will be a problem. Then people then use these funds for their own personal self-aggrandizement. That is not going to help. So you fund education, then you also ensure that easy way to get people into jobs is agriculture. And then of course you have to stimulate interest, in agric. And if you can get maybe the ones that are stark illiterates back to the farms for them to find that, because an idle mind is actually devil's workshop. So if they are idle, doing nothing, of course they can easily be recruited for all sorts of, violent, actions. And we have seen that any aggrieved person, all he needs to do is just go around, look for, because any day you wake up, you go to most of these junctions. You find a lot of able-bodied men and women so doing nothing. So they can easily be mobilized for anything. So government must also ensure that, they take steps to get people to work. So they have to create the enabling environment. One way to quick step is, what are we doing about electricity? It's not a joke. What are we doing about electricity? That could just take off quite a number of people and put them back to work. But if you are doing, so we're investing money and we're always claiming we're fighting corruption, but we're not seeing anybody behind bars. So you have endless cases, and all that. So all these things are, linked, together. And unless government, begins to do the right thing, and they can only do the right thing by showing examples, not that they will just be, you do as I say and not as I do. Because that's what we're having. People will tell you about honesty, about integrity, that they have integrity, they have this, but we don't see the integrity from the actions and from the way they run the government. So if you are saying you have integrity, display the integrity, so that people begin to see. And make examples of people who cannot identify the source of their income. You have all sorts of people, very wealthy, without any, business. So you cannot continue to have that. And then you think that you're going to we're not going to move anywhere.
All right, Professor Yusuf Zaka, thank you very much for your views. You said that you don't find people behind bars, on account of the fight against corruption. There are two former governors who are behind bars. One former governor of Taraba, another former governor of Plateau. A number of assets have also been forfeited. And I'm sure, you can replicate those examples. If you go, there are cases that are dragging on regardless, as you pointed out. But let's bring in again Group Captain Sadiq Shehu. There is a national policy on the youth, or a national youth policy. What, in your opinion, has been the challenge with translating the ideas therein into ramping up the well-being of our youth and thereby curbing youth restiveness?
Well, like it's often said, Nigeria is not short of policies. It is always in the implementation. During this research conducted by the Center for Strategic Studies, we actually identified some ministerial guidelines, that has to do with youth. So some of them, in general, they are good. But however, in implementing them, that is where where the problem crops up. That's why at the end of this, we are going to suggest practical steps of aligning all this so that we have synergy across all the relevant MDAs, and then with practical, actionable solutions. Let me please briefly permit me to talk about the solutions that somebody asked. At the center, we believe from the research, what we find is that another solution that could be to this youth restiveness is a society that is very inclusive. You have identified about 3 strata of youths based on their background. An inclusive society should be a one that aims to, to encourage political, social, and economic participation of everybody, irrespective of his background, irrespective of his family upbringing. Now, when you have that, you will reduce the tension between those who feel excluded and the people that they feel they include them. I will also come back. One of my colleagues here talked about education, technical education. We have to think out of the box. The world now is not about formal, certificated education. We are talking about, jobs now that have to do with soft and technical skills. We are moving from what we call white-collar jobs to what is now called new-collar jobs. New-collar jobs, they emphasize, skills. They have soft skills. In all honesty, we hear a lot of complaints. The people, yes, there is no opportunities, but even where there are opportunities, if you are involved in any recruitment, you find people who have finished university school, but they cannot sell themselves. They cannot write a good CV. They cannot write a good motivational letter that will make them employed. So definitely we have to look at that. Again, we have to look at the role of parents, the role of society, the role of the community as a whole. We have lost our values.
Captain Shehu, yeah. I'm not cutting short, but I want to remain with you. You just mentioned here that Nigeria is not short of policies, but it is an implementation. Yes. Likewise, Nigeria has not been short of workshops, such as the one you are trying to embark on presently. And what happens after workshops has always been that the communiques are never properly implemented. So is there going to be a kind of a follow-up after this planned workshop to ensure that whatever will be the outcome of the workshop are implementable, and that there are agencies, particularly and specifically, identified as the agencies that will ensure the proper implementation of whatever will come out of that workshop?
Thank you very much. We are not unmindful of the fact that a lot of workshops get organized, but nothing comes from it. But in this, I think the Center for Strategic Studies is lucky, because we are situated inside the National Defense College, where by virtue of our mandate, we have the opportunity of bringing top policy makers, and making available the fruit of our research available to them. So we have some leverage, which maybe other agencies may not have, and that is why we always seek collaboration with other MDAs to see that we make thematic research on areas of interest and fight. So we are not oblivious of this shortcoming, and we hope to tread a different path to see that whatever is produced from these experts, academia, and subject matter experts that we are going to assemble finally gets used as a tool for policy for the government.
My colleague Kieran and I were on the program yesterday, and we were discussing flooding. And one of our regular guests, Professor Adano, who is Executive Director of the Water Research Institute in Kaduna, expressed some frustration at the fact that even their findings and their reports on the flood warning alerts and what needs to be done, most times get to be ignored by the end users. That's to say, governments mostly at the subnational level. That's why I referenced earlier the issue of implementation of a national youth policy. The policy is there in the first instance. How do you take out the ideas therein and get them workable right down through the subnational levels to the community level? Professor Jacob, I'd like to have that response from you as your closing thought as well.
Yeah, just like Group Captain Sadiq said, the country is not short of policies, it's the implementation. And when policies are made, those in charge must insist that these policies are brought into fruition or reality. And the insistence is not going to be by the community. People are being paid to do their job. People are being paid to do their job, and they should ensure that what they are being paid to do, they do it. And if they're not ready to do it, they should be kicked out and let somebody else do it. It's not the executive, it's not the president or the governor that will do things that others have been paid to do. All they need to do is to give direction. Certain people are being paid to do the job, and they must do their job.
Okay. Gentlemen, we'd like to thank you for being a part of this segment of our program today. It's been wonderful talking to you on this very important matter. Professor Yusuf Zoaka of University of Abuja, of course, Dean of the Faculty of Social Sciences, we thank you for coming this morning.
Thank you.
And, of course, Professor James Jacob, Head of Department of Political Science and International Relations, University of Abuja. Thank you for your insights. And, of course, we are not forgetting Captain Sadiq Garba Shehu, retired Senior Research Fellow at the National Defense College and International Peace, Security and Development Experts. Thank you for your contribution.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, and you are still watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the NTA. We are just done with the first leg of our conversation this morning. Don't forget that when we return after this short break, we'll be talking about AFCON. Of course, we know Nigeria will be engaging Cameroon tomorrow at the Alexandria Stadium in Egypt. Don't go away.
Okay, you're welcome back, and it's still Good Morning Nigeria live on the network service of the NTA. Our second topic for discussion, of course, as my colleague Kirian indicated, we're assessing the ongoing African Cup of Nations, or Nations Cup, taking place in Egypt. And just before we bring in our two guests, let's get this vox pop from our correspondent Kunle Adeyeye, who saw the views of some Nigerians.
From what I have seen in this tournament, I've watched all the three matches. African football has improved. I think the officiating so far is very, very okay. It's encouraging. But you see, there's one thing about Nigerian football in particular. We have problem of selection. The coach needs to improve. He needs to change his tactics.
If Super Eagles, they go their next match with Cameroon with the heart, with Nigeria at heart, they forget about it, they have problem, of money, and this thing, they put the country at heart first. You understand? Definitely they will make it, because the way I see the Cameroon yesterday, honestly, I know that Super Eagles can beat them hands down.
The performance, we are disappointed somehow. You can see from the matches. To an extent, it's like we are not ready. Meeting Cameroon now, we don't have any much hope. Because if they are better prepared, definitely it's going to be something else again. We have to plan Nigerian football from scratch. Let it be a 10-year plan from now, maybe where we'll start grooming younger ones with the aim of making something better in the next 10 or 20 years. If just picking from anywhere, I don't think we can ever get it right. And there should be a consistency in having a coach that will go about grooming the younger ones. Picking them, let it be a national issue where from primary school, secondary school, we'll be picking gradually, putting them in the right way. Before that time, then we'll start celebrating.
The tournament is moving very well, despite the fact our Super Eagles, their performance is not up to the level we're expecting. But I believe with due time, just the way it happened, especially football, it comes the way you see it. But I believe by the grace of God, things is going to be improved.
And now joining us in the studio for the conversation on the AFCON 2019. Here we have our professional colleague in the studio with us. He's Fisayo Ogunfi. He's a sports analyst and also a writer. Thank you, Fisayo, for joining us this morning.
Thank you very much.
And there's one thing you don't know about Fisayo Kinsley. He was once a boxer. I don't have
in which weight category?
I don't know.
In which weight category?
You can look at his weight. You can guess.
No. Since he exited boxing, he may have gained some weight, but were you a middleweight or featherweight?
I'm not sure where Kira saw the clips.
All right, and hopefully we'll be having, of course, our ex-international and ex-Super Eagles coach in the person of Coach Samson Siasia. He will be joining us in the course of our conversation.
Okay, and also joining us via Skype. If we have him on Skype, I'd like to introduce him now if the engineers have been able to get it clear. All right, he's on the right-hand side. He's joining us from Brussels in Belgium, Mike Enahoro, sports analyst and also regular face on Good Morning Nigeria. Mike, pleasure to have you with us this morning.
And good morning, Nigeria. It's nice to join you guys via Skype from Brussels, Belgium.
You're going to bring some Tokumbo cars when you're coming, Abi? Okay, Mike, since the Skype connection is still very clear, let's begin with you. So charities begin abroad this time. There are many ways, of course, to assess a tournament. You look at the quality of play, quality of officiating, attendance at stadia, and other matters arising. In general, what's been your assessment of AFCON 2019, 24-team format for the first time?
In our view, I think Africa has developed, and the football on the field has been amazing. I think kudos to CAF. I think FIFA has also been in the background, making sure that Africa enjoys this AFCON. The 24-team format has been solidly well organized. We have seen the quality of stadia. We have seen the Egyptians turn out, and it has been, the quality of football on the field has really been improved. And this is because the players have had the end of their seasons, and they have come out really to play in this tournament. And I think Africa has been the benefactor of this type of time format, because now we're playing in June rather than in January. So it has been a successful turnout so far, and we have began to see the lesser and lower countries come out and really stake a claim, because they've got healthier players and all their superstars are coming out to play. So there is no minnow in this tournament, and it so far has been, the quality of play has been exceptional. And one of the things I must comment on is the refereeing has allowed, at least for us, to see uncontroversial games and games going out to us being judged by the talent on the field.
All right, Mike, let's remain with you. We've watched about 12 matches now from the AFCON games going on in Egypt. And talking about the quality, many people may differ from your opinion in terms of the quality of games. Because some say due to the addition of more number of countries participating in AFCON, that the quality has dropped to a reasonable extent, considering some of the matches there were just not of whatever standard they meant. But I'd like you to make comment more on the issue of the quality of games. So, of course, even on at the head-to-head, if you like.
I would beg to disagree, because, again, who would suspect that Madagascar would have been a walkover and 3 points in the bag for Nigeria? Those kids came out, they played, and they have shocked everyone to see the quality of Madagascar players. And the European clubs now will be looking to Madagascar part-timers to actually look at them as an option. Guinea-Bissau have held themselves. Benin Republic have come in and draw with Cameroon. And when you see players like that, even Egypt, the mighty Egypt, did not have a great time. Guinea has been an amazing revelation to everyone. So when you talk about the quality of play on the field, I would beg to differ that there has been no walkover, there has been no 5-0 defeat, there has been no wipeouts. So every country that has come into this format has come prepared, because each of those countries have had a 6 weeks break for them to prepare for the tournament because it's happening in June. The weather has cooperated as well, because this is supposed to be the rainy season, but Africa has held its own. So I beg to differ when I hear the quality of play has been, no, there has been no walkover for anybody, and all 24 teams have come out there to play, especially those big countries who have expected to walk over the smaller countries. They have been in for a shock, Nigeria being one of those cases.
Mike, thanks a lot for your initial comments. We'll come back to you. Let's bring in now Fisayo Ogunfoye, who's, of course, our NTA sports correspondent and analyst. What is your assessment so far of the tournament?
For standard of play, I agree completely with Mike Enahoro. Sometimes you are not very lucky in the qualifiers. You don't get to these teams because it was expanded. We've seen new teams, more, you know, courageous and brave to confront the so-called big teams. We've seen, you know, debutants perhaps attaching more importance to the tournament than the bigger teams that attach a lot of importance to the Champions League of this world and all that in Europe. And then, of course, we've had surprises. The only downside is that attendance has not been fantastic except for Egyptian matches. And then I'm surprised about the schedule. Egypt has played all its matches in the cooler times in the evening, and you see a lot of fans there. They are the hosts, and then they've put, for instance, Nigeria has played all their matches in the heat of the afternoon in Alexandria. So, and it's not been, in terms of the heat, it's not been very friendly to most of the European-based players. You see water breaks and all that. That's just about it. We expect the attendance to be more, people to come in more now that it's the knockout stages. You see that, you know, teams become desperate. You see better football, intense football now, because one mistake and then it's the flight ticket home. And then talking about officiating too, of course, you know how it is. The African referee still, I mean, there's still some question marks. And of course, in the first round of matches, they didn't use the VAR. We expect that to commence soon. I think about the quarterfinals, they will get their acts together. And that VAR, of course, I hope they've done a lot of trial runs, because it didn't quite help them in the Copa America that is going on right now in South America. So we want to see how they get that one right. And of course, the round of 16 is throwing up some interesting matches.
Yeah, well, you don't have to blame Egypt, you know, for keeping their team in the coolest part of the country. You know why? You know, they have to bail out. They have to bail out Cameroon.
I'm talking about the time.
Exactly.
All the matches Egypt has played is at 8 o'clock in the evening.
They had to bail out Cameroon. Remember, they have to bail out Cameroon, who was supposed to host this tournament. So somehow they have to gain something out of it. Well, let's not drag that. Let's talk about the Nigerian encounters, you know, so far, Fisayo. We played Guinea, and
if you don't mind, well, just before we talk about Nigeria, but still on the broad
on the border,
yeah, I just want to go to quality of play, quality and standard of play. I know both Fisayo and Mike, gentlemen, you guys have been, well, sorry, I said the word guys, have been advocates of African football, the African style of football, the approach to football. Have we seen in the round-robin stages almost excessive Europeanization of our style of play?
Yeah, well, you'll have to take a little roll call of the coaches that these players have been under. Many of them are from the Western climes. Apart from the national team coaches, for instance, Namibia, Senegal, Congo Democratic Republic and all that, the players are more now exposed to the Western culture in terms of football. You get to see more flair, you know, surprisingly, from the Maghreb nations who continue to retain the North African flair. What you see from Al Ahly, Esperance, Sfaxien, FUS Rabat, Wydad Casablanca, you still see in the national team. No matter how many years they've played in Europe, they seem to retain that special brand. What you see today from Salah, we used to see from Rabah Maja. So you keep on seeing that, like as if they have cloned themselves after those earlier footballers. But in Nigeria, no style. We've not been able to replicate the Okochas, the Yekinis and all that. Everybody goes through the academy, goes to Europe, and now everybody looks like Lampard and Stevie Gerrard. So there's a problem in that.
The question I would like to ask, you know, in connection with this, you know, is actually, is there anything called African style of play and European style of play? Because why I'm asking this question is the fact that, you know, we know the 3-4-5-2 formation, 4-5. That's what still goes on across the globe in terms of formations. And perhaps some may say that formations determine exactly the style of play by any team.
No. Not at all. Because England can play 4-3-3, Spain will play 4-3-3, but the players give different interpretations to the 4-3-3. Because Spain's 4-3-3 is inverted, and you see that the midfielders hold on to the ball, wait for the fullbacks to come before they release to the side. And then in England, it's direct. They play straight through the middle, straight to Harry Kane. It's 4-3-3, but it's in, the interpretation is in the player, the flair, the extra time he has on the field. For instance, there was a time in the mid-90s, Colombia came with a brand of football. Carlos Maturana was the coach. They had a midfielder called Carlos Valderrama. He would not mark. They send the ball to Valderrama, but you are sure that the players in front, Freddy Rincon, Faustino Asprilla, Ivan Valenciano, Adolfo Valencia, they will get the ball. And then we had a Brazil that had...
Jogo Bonito.
They had a style of football that was not concerned about how many goals they concede. They are sure to beat you 5-3. So it didn't matter. Even their defenders are more skillful than some strikers. They take on the ball, they reduce you to, before you even play, you already feel that you have lost. So your psyche is to defend and reduce the number of goals you concede. All that is because it's the interpretation of the game. We are athletes in Nigeria, and for a long time, everybody feared the Nigerian winger. Tijani Babangida, George Finidi, Emmanuel Amunike, Victor Ikpeba, we play from the flanks because naturally we are athletes. We are very fast. So even if a player is not very skillful, he pushes the ball, the defender is on the defensive because once it is about pace, it's not just about, there's nothing you can do about it. You have to be able to run to keep up.
Yeah, Degbame was on the outside right.
Yes,
Dokia Masameka was on the outside left. I would like Mike Inaharo to also speak to this issue in terms of the flair, excessive Europeanization, or you still have the flashes of the African touch at the ongoing tournament.
Yes, it's still existing. And I will tell you that Fisayo is right. One of the things that all these other countries he has mentioned is that they have kept the academy system that every player that comes out of that country has the basis of the DNA of the country. So if you see the Philippe Coutinhos, if you see Firminos, if you see all the Brazilians that currently play, they have the same style. Neymar will play like any other Brazilian center forward because he went to the academy and that was what he was taught since he was 5. Now, the Nigerian system is, Fisayo is absolutely right. Because of our athleticism, we are wingers and we like to knock the ball and we like to run at pace. That's why when you see our under-17s play and our under-20s play, it shows you that they can run at pace. What has happened is we do not have the national academy structure that allows kids to be developed playing in that same style. So the kids come out and they play in a particular Nigerian style of knocking the ball and moving the ball at pace. So when they come to the national team, be you who you are. If an Iwobi came in from England, he will be taught to play in that same way, to knock the ball to the side and let the faster players move, and he will support them moving at pace. So any coach that you hire that comes in understands that this is the DNA of what he is going to be dealing with, and he would have to structure the creativity around pace play. So the difference of what we have in the country is that we do not have a national coaching technical structure that allows any coach to pick up that template and try to reform that playing style around the type of DNA the Nigerian system is. And that's where you begin to find that every coach from Manfred Hoyner to Clement Westerhoff and all the way down, Samson Siasia and co, begin to imprint their own interpretation team. And that's why you cannot get a of the Nigerian national team. We need to have a structure that says this is the Nigerian DNA. When you come and adapt it. Cameroon have Clarence Seedorf and Clivert. They will not play any different from what the Cameroonian DNA is, because that's what Feckerfoot has allowed them to do. So again, with Gennett Raw, Nigerian coach using the Gennett Raw template. He is not using the Nigerian template. He is using Gennett Raw template because we have never fed him and said, this is the Nigerian template, please improve on it. And that's why you can find that the African style of play, everyone playing today, Bahaf Senegal, and I state this, Bahaf Senegal and Egypt, all of us are playing to the template of the coach of the day.
And that brings us to the issue of coach before we talk about Nigeria's performance at the ongoing AFCON. Now, look at the coaching crews of the different teams. Talk about African coaches. You know, our own Amuneke, brought Tanzania to this tournament. Look at the coaching style, the quality of coaching, that is the European coaches versus African coaches in this tournament.
First of all, you may not be able to get the success of a coach from just these matches. You need to see what his influence has been in his country, in the country he's coaching. That is, how has he been able to help develop their football there, the structure behind him. And then, apart from that, how many players has he been able to, perhaps improve? And we must be fair to them as well. The time they have with the players is not much. If you're a national team coach, on the average, you get your players for 5 days in 2 months. Sometimes it's less because they come from Europe, all over Europe. They are traveling for 2 days for a match on Saturday. They travel for 2 days, they get the rest, then they start training Tuesday, Wednesday. So you might not have much. But the truth of the matter is, it's the federation that has to, first of all, when you monitor your players, you check up on them, check their fitness, discuss and all that. The Ghanaian team has a WhatsApp group. To be, just for instance, they have a WhatsApp. So it's like a family. So you check up on your players, you have the fitness. Sometimes, I remember, when we played in '94, some of the tricks we used at that time was that we left some players, some of our best players. We left some of them, like Emmanuel Amuneke. He just came to do the damage in the final. We knew him in the qualifiers. We knew everything. But the opponents did not know what we were getting ready to unleash in the final. The team was so together that, by the time we got to the World Cup, it was our debut match. We scored 3 goals. That was the first match of Nigeria at the World Cup. But the confidence that the team was exhibiting in the US, you would have thought that team had gone to the World Cup once or twice before. But right now, I'm sorry, I'm not the best fan of Gernot Rohr, in spite of the qualifying with a match to spare. His philosophy of football is like a man holding his team on a leash. He doesn't want them to, exhibit the best. We are always on the defensive, worried about what the other team is going to do to us, not about them worried about what we will do to them. We want to play Madagascar, 109 in the world in FIFA ranking, and you are playing 3 defensive midfielders against Madagascar. I've never seen that. We play a team like that, and then we play even at the beginning. We have already designed our team to contain Madagascar. Madagascar should be worried about Nigeria, not the other way around. So this has been a challenge. His outlook to football is defensive. And you have this in teams. For instance, in Arsenal, under Arsene Wenger, he had a guy, Steve Bold. He was this defensive coach. In Belgium, Roberto Martinez had an attacking coach. That was Thierry Henry, because they teach the strikers how to move and all that. The defenders, the defensive coach teaches the defenders how to arrange themselves and be close and mark tight spaces and all that. Attackers. I think Gernot Rohr is a defensive coach because he naturally, tries to shut down the other team. He doesn't perhaps think of how to do his own mapping on how to punish the other side. And that was why we lacked ideas after we had gone down by 1 goal. If that match was on for the next 2 hours, we would still not score against Madagascar because we couldn't find Igalo. In the match, Igalo was isolated, and it was as if he was a spectator just like you and I.
Igalo himself, I read one of the reports. It said that he was being starved of feeds from his colleagues. Mike, what's your own reaction to our style of play and therefore the raw philosophy for the Super Eagles? Are we likely to go any far if this philosophy were to be sustained?
Not at all. Fisayo is right. Gernot Rohr is playing like a very scared man. And you have these players that are built to run. They are like, it's like taking the Mercedes-Benz and putting in a Picanto engine. It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I screamed my head out when we were playing Madagascar, because here are boys who are in their prime. You have successfully gathered the youngest crop of Nigerians footballers at the prime of their lives. Let them run. Let them play. Unloose the leash. If they score, no problem. These are guys who will go back and score more. And you've gathered the guys and they are healthy and you need to let them play. Don't hold back the reins. Don't hold back the reins. There's no need to play with defensive midfielders. For God's sake, let these guys loose. Unleash these people and let them go and bastardize any team they come against. I don't see why for 90 minutes we would want to keep the ball in the second half of the field and not want to attack because you're afraid of losing the ball. Igalo can chase anybody down from the other 18-yard box to his own 18-yard box. And this is a philosophy of a Swiss-German mentality, of a man who is in his 60s, who is thinking that every kid on that field is his grandchild and he doesn't want them to get hurt. Let them play. Let these kids play and let them get out there and win or lose on their own terms. And I don't see why we should be playing defensive midfielders more than any other department in the field. I mean, I can tell you the most exciting national team in the last 20 years of Nigeria that I've watched is the one coached by Samson Siasia. You score them, they'll score you back. You score again, they'll score you again. So I think we need to be able to tell some of these foreigners that come into Nigeria the Nigerian spirit, because one of the reasons why they don't understand is they don't watch our local league. They don't live in Nigeria. They don't understand the mentality of Nigerians. So they gather these guys together when they themselves have only arrived 2 days before. And so it's just a shame that we have this, one of the best crop of Nigerians assembled ever, and then we're still keeping them with one leg chained behind their backs. I think Gernot Rohr needs to change his mentality. He needs to allow some of the Nigerians who are working with him to advise him, and he needs to listen to other coaches that are in the sphere and in the sphere of who. He should be talking to people like Clemens Westerhoff. He should be talking to people like Samson Siasia, who have handled this job before and are still very much around to support him. People like J.J. Okocha, people like Kanu Nwankwo should be the ones advising him to say, look, let this team go. Unleash the reins. If they score 3, just be sure that these guys will score 4.
All right, I can really feel and understand your passion and, of course, your frustration when it comes to the pattern of football that Nigeria has displayed in the ongoing AFCON. Not just you, but all of us, who have love for football. Now, some of us who have also played football in the past. I'm not sure of my colleague, but the understanding is that we need to up our game if we're going to survive the round of 16.
I don't know. I thought that we were going to spare our viewers, this banter, over. You said you played football before.
Of course I did. Of course I did.
You played for Vasco da Gama.
I played a Greater Tomorrow then. I mean,
DMGS or where? No, just let's discuss AFCON. I don't want to bring in Rangers and Mendel Insurance today. Kieran, actually, we have 2 sets of tweets. Yeah. We have 2 topics actually. I think we're already done with the first topic, which had to do with government role, in taming or curbing youth restiveness. So we just go to the second set of tweets, which will be on AFCON, as our guest has stayed with us. Amogbola Babs has this tweet. He says, while Nigeria may have qualified, it calls for serious concern that we find it difficult to find the best 25 who can represent us in the later game. Smaller countries and debutants are showing stellar performance while we are just lackluster, worrisome.
Yes, and Law Alpha says AFCON 2019 taking place in Egypt is living up to expectations thanks to beautiful cities, world-class stadiums, and efficient coverage of live matches. Is there any football tough in Nigeria as excellent as the ones we are seeing in Egypt now?
Shani Michael Omakoji tweets, now officiating has been fairly okay, but one wonders why they are not using VAR. We expect a competitive second round because the boys now have been separated from the men.
All right, Festus Akimbo, as expected, AFCON 2019 has so far produced some stars and flops. Kudos to our Super Eagles for advancing to the knockout stage, but their performance against Madagascar was disappointing, and they need to step up their game if they must survive the knockout stage.
Mike Ayakwa tweets, the performance of the Super Eagles so far has been below standard. I'm at a loss that the issue of non-payments of benefits should be a reason for the loss to the underdog. The match officials and coaching crew should appreciate the importance of Saturday's match and take it with the utmost seriousness.
The Chris Simeon, players in our various local leagues can perform better than those in the national team. I would like coach to go to the local league and select skilled and talented players.
Dele Jack Solomon said, now going to the round of 16, it's obvious that one of the 8 favorites, such as Nigeria, Egypt, Senegal, Cote d'Ivoire, Cameroon, Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia, will come away with the top prize. You can't, Nigeria and Cameroon, they are clashing tomorrow, so one of them has to go tomorrow.
No, exactly. And finally, from Law Alpha C, most African bigweights in football showpiece have qualified with a shock from the debutant, Madagascar. Officiating has been fairly okay, but one wonders why they are not using VAR. We expect a competitive second round because boys are separated from men already. And we are being beckoned to take a short break. And we'll do just that. But when we come back, we'll continue with the rest of our discussion. Don't go away.
One Football Confederation, 24 teams, 6 stadiums, 4 cities, 504 African stars, 1 trophy. The Africa Cup of Nations Egypt 2019 comes alive from June 21 with the showpiece final on July 19, 2019. Watch the 52 matches of the tournament live on Africa's biggest and largest television network, NTA, in partnership with Hot Sports. Be part of the biggest soccer fiesta in the African continent as the Super Eagles go on a bold mission to clinch the prestigious title for the 4th time, to the excitement of millions of fans across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Nigeria's premier sports production and marketing group, Hot Sports, partners with the biggest, the largest, and the #1 television network in Africa, the NTA, to give Nigerians a memorable viewing experience. Boost fan support for the Super Eagles to glory in Egypt. For inquiries, please contact Abubakar on 0803-331-0175 and Felix on 0803-308-2375. NTA, you can't beat the rich.
All right, welcome back. And my colleague Kieran did say that we're expecting another guest to join us in this conversation. And just in time before we wrap up to this conversation, it's our pleasure to welcome Samson Siasia. Samson Siasia, ex-Super Eagles, ex-international, 1994 AFCON winner and coach of the Nigerian team that won the Olympic silver medal in Beijing 2008 and then bronze in Rio 2016. For more than 4 decades, it's always been soccer, soccer, soccer. Samson Siasia, of course, was in Lafa League in those days when they were students in Lagos, and it's never looked any different from the way he has now. Samson Siasia, pleasure to have you on Good Morning Nigeria.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be here.
Yeah, you're welcome indeed. And let's get your own assessment of the ongoing AFCON in Egypt.
Well, we actually messed up in the last game, and then that changed, a lot of things for Super Eagles. Instead of playing the weakest team, now they're playing almost a very strong team. So, well, I guess that would be a wake-up call for us because we never do well with the, teams that we don't believe that are as good as our team. So, I think Cameroon is going to give us the run for our money, and the boys will come out and play. That's what I believe.
Okay, and some have condemned, or rather made some comments regarding the philosophy of football that the Super Eagles are playing at the moment. As a former coach, would you say that the real football DNA of Nigeria has not been seen so far?
Well, the Nigerian teams have always been offensive-minded, and we don't see that yet. We don't create enough chances at goal. If you said Odion is one of the strikers, how many balls did he actually touch? How many chances did he actually have in the last game? So we have to actually improve on that. And we can't always play the same way. There must be an element of surprise sometimes. Checking in and coming back, trying to get the balls behind the defenders. All those things we didn't see. So I think they have to go back to the drawing board and make sure they're actually very, very ready for today's game because it's not going to be easy for them.
I just wonder, we keep hearing, sometimes, when we have our backs to the wall in Nigeria, we say we're going back to the drawing board. The tournament is already on, knockout stages. Here we are. What is your assessment of of the tournament in general, in terms of the quality of play, is the tournament living up to expectations in terms of an upgrade?
I don't think so, because if you're looking at where we came from 94 to date, I think there should be a better improvement than what we saw or what we've seen. And then I've not seen any change yet. So the big countries we call like Cameroon and Egypt, they have to live up to expectations because they have better players and all. But all the games they actually played, I didn't see any way of like they dominated these games and play these guys hands down. Just like you're playing against African team playing against a German team. They'll come out and score a lot of goals, and we don't see those goals anymore. Those are the areas I think we have to improve on. Instead of committing, fouls around the 18-yard box where you have a chance of giving the opponent a goal. So these are the areas where we are lacking as African countries. We went to the World Cup, the same problems, and now you're still seeing it now in the AFCON. We don't create enough chances. Even if we do, we don't score those chances, so it's a big problem.
Samson, actually, what you have said, what he has just said, is not in concomitance. What our guests, other guests, who have been speaking, agreed in terms of quality, because I have mentioned that in most tournaments, at this stage that we are now, we would have started seeing some sparks of either new stars coming up, new dribbles, but dribbling patterns, something new coming, not just pushing the balls and all of that. So the quality is what I want to. Kingsley wanted you to talk about the holistic quality, not just Nigeria,
No,
but
I'm
the
talking
entire
about
nation.
generally,
Exactly,
generally, I don't see. I've not seen a country that's actually come out and play and created enough chances and scoring those goals.
We have a star in Nigeria. His name is Samuel Chukwueze.
What has he?
We just definitely don't. I don't know why the coach played him in one game and then kept him somewhere.
But
This boy's price tag.
What did he do in that one game?
It was fantastic.
Put Messi in the game. 5 minutes. You show you that he's Messi.
But it wasn't Messi against Brazil.
We saw Messi. We saw Messi a couple of days ago.
He was complaining about
VAR and all that. But Samuel Chukwueze has a price tag of about almost 60 million.
No, but let's see that price. Let's see that price tag.
I'm saying he played the first game. He was one of the best players. All of a sudden, they put him on the bench. The last game, he didn't even come in. I don't know why it is that we have players who can sprint, who can dribble, and they prefer defensive midfielders who can run 10 yards. I don't understand that. We have Onyekuru on the bench. He was one of the best players in Turkey this past season. He has not kicked a ball. He has not kicked the ball for the Super Eagles in this tournament. It's not as if we don't have players.
I don't know. I don't know. But, something everybody knows about what you went through. But is there an issue with our soccer management, so that by the time we get to the elite stage of competitions, all the crises just begin to bubble up?
Well, there's a lot of crises all this time, but you guys won't know because you're not close to the scene. We are closer and know exactly what's going on. You're talking about allowances and all. These things shouldn't come up at all. It shouldn't come up at all. Falcons, they had it. The under-20s, they had it. Now the Super Eagles. So how do you actually concentrate and actually go out and play? So it's a big problem. There's a big mess in that Nigerian Football Federation. They have to do a better job. It's not working, and we'll have to find. We just keep talking and talking, but we don't find solutions. Matters are rising, but matters always arise, but we don't solve them. So it's a problem. That's a big problem. It's only when we come to watch the Nations Cup, what's the Super Eagles playing? How did they prepare? Do you know? You don't know. There are some other things that are going on in that Super Eagles camp that you don't know anything about. Just like you said, Chukwu is a great player. Why haven't they played him? They played one game and that was it. If you play Chukwu and Simon left and right, these guys will mess. You can't stop them. Why put them on the bench? Why take them there? That guy is a revolution in Spain. Why bring him?
All right, let's get the reaction of our guest in Belgium, Vaskap, Mike Enahoro. You've listened to Samson Sasia.
Me come over too. Samson is right. And Fisayo is also right, because I can tell you this. Why do you have Mustangs that you just put in the corral and not let them run? We have the youngest forward lineup in the last 20 years that we've seen. Why would the coach just hold up the reins? Samson is right. All this has to do with the shenanigans happening in the back end of managing football. The administration has never ever been right by house a couple of times. Look at Osimhen. We need to get all these young lads. We need to let them out. These are all the capacities and the future of Nigerian football. We need to be able to not let the boardroom affect the field. And most of the times you see that the decisions that are being made, even the most uneducated Nigerian football fan would look at the selection, would look at the playing pattern, would look at the structure in which the Nigerian team is set up on the field and say, what in God's name is this? And once you can get to that point, you would understand that we have a problem. And this is where boardroom decisions and back-end office decisions carry through and the coach are being instructed to play. Again, Nigerians need to understand this. We've taken the best 23 players that the eggheads who are managing our national team believe that are good enough to represent us. But we have not been able to put 11 of them on the field to execute. What Samson is saying is right, and I think we need to carry through and just go through where we can find a structure in the Nigerian Football Federation that allows football on the field not to be interrupted by their own decisions in the boardroom.
Okay, Mike, thanks a lot. I wanted you to translate the greetings between yourself and Samson earlier, but we don't have enough time. We'll come back to you to get your closing thoughts, Mike. Samson, before we introduced you, both Mike and Fisayo were talking about what should be regarded as a Nigerian DNA in terms of our soccer disposition and how we play and grassroots development. You can't plant any DNA in me now, neither yourself. Yes. How well are we doing with regard to grassroots soccer development, which is what you are involved in now?
Yes, I don't think we're doing that well because, just like you said, if we don't go to grassroots, our generation would die. And without grassroots, it's going to be a problem. So who's going to take over from the likes of us and those other ones that are playing? So we need to fund the grassroots. We have academies, we have clubs that have, if you don't have academies, how do you train the young ones to take over from there? While we're in France, the academy is there. As soon as you're good enough to play in the first team, you join the first team. Why they sell the older ones and why you have a chance? We don't have things like that. Where's the funding? I have an academy, but we're suffering. We're actually, we're managing ourselves. It's very difficult.
From whom do you expect funding?
Mm-hmm.
Government or private sector?
Government and private sector, because they have this thing they call the CSR, Social Corporate Responsibility. They can use the funds from there to support, grassroots. But we don't worry about grassroots. All we worry about is AFCON. Before these players will get to AFCON, they have to come through the grassroots. Right. Well, so we need to fund that grassroots.
Gentlemen, time, is just running out. So we have to close this conversation at this point. Well, tomorrow is a D-Day for Nigeria, meeting Cameroon. Yes, of course, because we've suffered in the hands of Cameroon over time. For now, it's a round of 16 and somebody must go. As Fisayo did point out, somebody must go tomorrow.
Well, let's not be pessimistic. Let's wish the Super Eagles all the very best, in tomorrow's match. I mean, if you go to the World Cup, Samson Siasia scored a fantastic goal against Argentina in 1994. I mean, Samson Siasia, remember that goal? You scored against Argentina. That team had Diego Maradona.
Exactly. So he scored 2 against Cameroon.
They mastered Cameroon. Each time Thomas Nkono, all the other great players of Cameroon saw him, they were all shivering. So we hope that they will shiver tomorrow when they face the Super Eagles. On that note, we'd like to thank our 3 guests who've been with us in the second conversation that we've had this morning. Mike Inahoro joined us via Skype from Brussels in Belgium. Mike, thank you very much for your contribution. Also here with us in the studios, ex-Super Eagles player and ex-Super Eagles coach, and of course a medalist with the Olympic teams that he coached in silver and then also in bronze. Samson Siasia,
thank you very much.
Great having you on Good Morning Nigeria, and best of luck with your academy and indeed others who are into the academy. I want to say, go for you, whom Kirian Mayo said that you were an ex-boxer or something, I'm not quite sure. Or perhaps combine that
Maybe somebody who looked like me.
Probably, that person must have been a weightlifter.
No, Trisha, you told me the story. You told me the story.
Okay, of course, my colleague Kirian Mayo has been here with me, of course, in the course of the program. He said it was greater tomorrow. I didn't want to ask him. I asked him GMGS. He said no. I didn't want to ask him about CKC. You know, where you had the late Nnamdi Nwokocha, who was a key striker.
Have you forgotten about Colliery Comprehensive Secondary School?
Ask him whether I was a footballer.
Of course, you don't know where it is.
Yes. That's nightmare.
Exactly.
Okay, on that note, we'd like to thank you for tuning in. We wish you a lovely weekend. And, of course, best of luck to our Super Eagles. Good Morning Nigeria returns on Monday, same time, 7 o'clock in the morning. Until then, I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian. You might have a great weekend.